Around, doesn't it? All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. I appreciate you making it this far. 5 time points in a training series is pretty intense. Hopefully you learned a lot of good information along the way and it felt worthwhile. We certainly think so. And this is the last, but certainly not the least of our presentations in this training series. We're going to be talking about our youth services and the community support services. And we have 2 staff with us today who are going to be talking more in depth about that. And then again, at the end, we'll be having a breakout session for some, and others of you would be able to leave after that. And we'll talk about who that is. So without further ado, I would like to present Anna Solly and Siri Erickson, and I will let them introduce what roles they have at Tubman, as well as kind of maybe what their history is. Take it away, folks.
Thank you, Katie. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here. Like Katie said, I'm Anna Solly, and I'm the Youth Education Manager at Tubman. I've worked at Tubman on the education team for just over 10 years, and before that, I actually started as an intern when I was in college, working on the crisis line to answer those phone calls. Siri, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Siri. I'm our youth community housing manager here at Tubman. So I work primarily in our youth community-based housing program and North Star, our youth outreach center. And then I've worked in a few different positions at Tubman. So I was a legal advocate about 5 years ago. And then I've done some work as a community outreach manager at Tubman too.
So now you know who we are. Feel free to use our names as you need. So if you have a question and you're trying to get our attention, feel free to hop on the mic. That's totally fine. We're comfortable with that. And I spend all my time in schools with students. So I'm very comfortable with weird questions you think I can't answer. That's fine. We'll go with it. Also, feel free to ask questions in the chat box as well. Anytime. We've got some elephants here on the screen representing our youth services night. We're going to call that a child elephant and a teen elephant. So they both fall into the age range that could get our services. All right, so this is just kind of an overview of what we'll be talking about tonight. So this is youth and family and community support services. I know you all can read, but I do want to highlight some of these points that are up here. So some of these are going to be services that are provided at the locations that we have at Tubman, so Tubman East or Tubman Chrysalis. Also, we are often found in schools and clients' homes and around different places in the community. Some of those places are people that or organizations that we partner with, and sometimes they're just places we're using to drop in, like a library or a coffee shop to meet with our clients. And all of these services, excuse me, as you've noticed, we're very client-centered here at Tubman. So all of these services are designed with the voices of our clients being included, which means that sometimes we have them fill out evaluations or we survey clients, we talk to them about what they would like to see in the services, and then we try to reflect that as best we can. And we do that ongoing throughout the year. And we are actively involved in collaborations to help improve community well-being in general. So we are always trying to figure out how do we support race equity and other marginalized populations in any way that we can, again, with that community feedback that's pretty consistent. Siri, did you have anything to add to that?
I don't think so. That's great.
Great, I nailed it. All right. All right, so we're going to start with the youth services. Again, if you have questions at any time, please ask those. Don't feel like you're interrupting. So we want to break this down a little bit. These are all going to be youth services, but this is kind of how we break it down. So the first one is Voices in Prevention. We refer to that as VIP for short. This is a program that is in school. So we're usually in health classes serving students directly. I'll give you more detailed information about that shortly. The next one there is Movement for Violence Prevention. We call this MVP for short. This is plain old alphabet soup that we have here at Tubman. Lots of letters we'll be throwing at you, but you can always remember VIP and MVP, youth team. The contact person for both of those programs is me. So if you just get anything from this night here, please remember me when you think of youth. Feel free to ask me any questions about youth. So MVP is our youth leadership aspect to our violence prevention education. So we do a lot of small groups and some one-on-ones to equip people with the tools they need to make the change that they want. Again, you'll get more details shortly. The third one listed is the Inspiring Youth program. That's working one-on-one with youth, and we'll give you more details again, and the North Star Youth Outreach Center. So all of those fall into the youth services that are in the community locations. Any of those things can also happen at a Tubman location as well, but usually we're out and about for those things. All right, so we're going to start with Voices in Prevention, VIP. Like I said, this is our in-school curriculum, and it is a 6-lesson curriculum. We do follow the CDC recommendations for the topics that we should talk about when talking about healthy relationships and promoting nonviolence. So that's sort of what we tend to update our lessons with, is those CDC recommendations, but we also have a lot of other checks and balances with the curriculum throughout the year. This curriculum got started around 1990, 1991, I think that school year, when a Minneapolis teacher who taught health approached some Tubman staff and said, we would really like to collaborate to make something that we can teach in schools in our health classes about relationships, because I'm seeing that my students are dealing with relationships on a daily basis, but there's no formal curriculum already in the health curricula that are in the schools that are explicitly talking about that stuff. So they wanted to talk about domestic abuse, red flags, how to stay safe, and resources. So that's when the first iteration of the curriculum happened, early 90s. And essentially it's grown and changed a lot since then. So we're in a lot of schools. We started out in Minneapolis, but now we go into a lot of schools in the metro area, over 40 schools a school year. That would be middle schools and high schools mainly, but we also get to elementary schools occasionally and go on some college campuses too. So like I said, it's a 6-lesson curriculum, and each lesson builds off the one before it. We typically present these lessons in health classes, though sometimes the classes might be more specific, like teen issues or healthy living, different things like that. We have lots of strong relationships with teachers who will email me every year to schedule for like each semester. So we have a lot of long relationships, and then mostly people hear about us through their teacher friends. So when we get new requests, it's because teachers have been like, oh, I'm having this person in, you should contact them too. So we don't get a lot of people needing to refer to this program, except one of the times you might refer to this program is if you're answering a crisis line, or if you are talking to people in the community who work in schools, maybe they're educators, maybe they're even students and they're interested in this kind of programming. You can always say, oh, we have in-school programming that teaches about this stuff, and then refer them to me. My contact info is on there. So like I said, we've got the 6 lessons that build off each other. I just want to give you a little overview of what those lessons are, so you have an idea of what we're talking about when we're in the community. The first lesson is about what's healthy and what's unhealthy in a relationship. How do we define abuse? What are the types of abuse? And looking for red flags. The second lesson, probably my favorite lesson, is about empathy. And we use stories about relationships to teach that concept to students. How do we empathize with people we're in relationships with, and how do we empathize with people that we want to offer support to? If we have a friend, for example, who's going through an unhealthy situation, how can we support them empathetically? The third lesson is about stereotypes and how that can affect our relationships in the community and interpersonally, and how that can contribute to violent situations. The stereotype we focus on mostly in that lesson is gender stereotypes, but we do branch out to all different kinds of stereotypes as the conversations go. The fourth lesson is about emotion management. So dealing with emotions that are difficult and challenging, and still being able to maintain our relationships and a healthy relationship with ourselves. The fifth lesson would be communication. So when we're feeling emotions, how do we communicate in a healthy way without harming anyone? And then we wrap up the sixth lesson talking about resources and tools for change, and how do people make change in the community they want to see. So that's kind of an overview. I know that's a lot of information I've just given you. You don't have to memorize that stuff. But if you're talking to a young person or an educator or a parent who might be interested in those topics, this could be something you might refer them to. Always feel free to ask me if you over-refer, if you refer somebody and this isn't quite the right fit, nobody's going to get upset about it. Feel free to refer anytime. So we are funded to teach this curriculum in Hennepin, Ramsey, and Washington counties for the most part. We have multiple funding streams that fund this particular program. So we have a lot of different things that we have to do in different areas, but we parse that out as we go along. So don't feel like if it's outside of those service areas that we can't do anything for them. Just feel free to refer them anyway. And then my contact information is at the bottom. So that's my phone number. People can leave a voicemail there. And then that teen email, teens@tubman.org, is an email that we share quite publicly with a lot of people. So if people want to sign up for a group or something, or they have a question or they need a resource, this email can be appropriate. Also, for any staff who want to refer anybody in the community to any of the programs that we talk about, that I'm talking about tonight in the youth programming, feel free to use that email. And if you're talking to a young person and they're just like, I need somebody to talk to, and it's not a crisis situation or not a 911 situation, this email, you can also feel free to give out to anyone. And I'm the one who usually answers those emails, but it's not a crisis email, so I usually answer within 2 days. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. Oh, this is an evidence-based curriculum. So that means that we pre-test students and post-test them. And then we have a third party analyze the pre-tests and post-tests. That is to ensure that we are teaching the correct information to the students and that they're actually learning things, that I'm actually covering the topics I'm supposed to when I'm in schools and not just like playing games with them and eating candy, although that is a lot of what we do. And we also have students evaluate these lessons in different ways too. They can leave comments about what they liked and didn't like. They can say how competent they thought the educator was, and whether they were interested in the topic. And we read every single one of those evaluations that students give us. And that helps inform us of what direction we need to take the curriculum in, what should stay the same, what we need to change. I think we'll have some quotes next, but are there any questions about this in-school programming before I read these quotes? And of course, feel free to ask anytime. Interrupt if you would like. So there's some quotes here. These are from the evaluations that we give students. So they have a lot of yes or no questions about, was this helpful? Yes or no, would I recommend this to other people? Yes or no. They circle those and then they can leave any things they want. They have a space that says I learned or I liked or I would change or I didn't like. They can write whatever they feel like. So these are some of the ones that made me feel good. I like the efforts to be inclusive. So again, we try to be as inclusive as possible and reflect the communities that we're serving. So we take all the comments that students make very seriously. If somebody feels like something is underrepresented in the curriculum, we definitely do our best efforts to make sure that we include what needs to be the following school year. I learned to never be scared of asking for help. I learned how to create rich relationships and be a better friend. I learned how to handle and help people in abusive situations. All of these are quotes that made me feel really good. I know that when I was in school, I never had any lessons about relationships or abusive situations and how to handle those. So I'm really proud and happy that I get to do this work and give people that information. Again, if you think of any questions, feel free to ask anytime. And then we're going to talk a little bit about MVP, which is Movement for Violence Prevention. So I just gave you a good taste of what goes on in the classrooms for our VIP curriculum. That curriculum translates very well into small group situations where we can dive a little bit deeper. So a lot of the topics that I mentioned to you in the VIP lessons are the same things that we do when we are engaging people in these MVP groups. So we refer to these as like youth leadership groups, and they're often referred to as leadership training. So it's really us giving a bunch of information and tools to young people who are interested in these topics. This program came about, I believe, in 2009-ish. That was before I was at Tubman, but people would go through the curriculum in their school, in their health classes, our VIP curriculum, and then they'd say, well, now I care about all these issues. What do I do next? Like, what's the next step? And so that's why this was created. So this is created to support students who are just interested in this topic, who want to learn more, who want to make change, or who just want to be better at supporting their friends, family, etc. Most of the students who go through our youth leadership aspect of this are people who met us in school or heard about us from a different way and are interested. We also do have a partnership with Hennepin County Juvenile Probation Offices. So occasionally somebody will be court ordered to go through this program if they have committed a violent offense. That's something I'm really proud of, because I think that this is a helpful tool for people in as far as it celebrates people's strengths and recognizes that we've all done things that are unhealthy before, and how do we move forward in a healthy way and act non-violently. So it doesn't really feel as much like a punishment for students. It's more like an opportunity for change and growth, which I think is kind of our vibe at Tubman. So that's why I really like this. So it's kind of counts as service learning. Sometimes people can get credits for classes for doing this youth leadership group. It just kind of depends on their school district. A lot of times people want volunteer hours for it. And this kind of group also looks really good on people's like resumes and job applications, things like that. And then of course, sometimes we make some really good connections with students, and then they use us as references and things like that. And that can create a really nice connection for us in the community. The image you see here, where it says women can do anything men can do, and it doesn't make you less manly to ask for help. That's one of the past winners of a poster contest that we do annually. So every February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And the group of people that are impacted the most by domestic violence and have the fewest services are teens, in that sort of 13 to 24 age range. So that's why there's a whole month specifically about teen dating violence. And that's usually because people haven't been given the tools and information they need to make healthy relationship choices, which is why our program exists. So we talk about that during the month of February quite a lot. And we have a poster and video contest. So students can make posters and videos that raise awareness about this as an issue, or that can celebrate healthy behaviors, kind of whatever direction they want to take it in. And then in March, we have an event called Express Good. And we have community members vote on the posters and the videos that were submitted. And there will be first and second and third prize winners for both posters and videos. And they win money. We can give them money. So that's one of the things that we do in the program as well. We also have a lot of young people who go through this youth leadership program and then they want to do something themselves in the community. And we really love to see that kind of inspiration and support it. So we do have funding available through this program to help support people in their own events or projects that they're working on. And one of those, we had a couple students go through and they decided to call their group. The two of them made a group together and they wanted to call their group Teens for Violence Prevention, TVP for short, right, with the alphabet soup again. And they ended up going into schools that we didn't have time to get to or were outside of our service areas and doing presentations that they created based on information and supplies that we had given them. That's exactly what we like to see. We like to support teens and uplift their voices and the way that they want to be heard. Again, the contact for this programming is me, phone number and email there. This is a great option for any families that you're talking to who might have people in the like 13 to 24 age range. We can go a little bit above and below that to, of course, we can be flexible. So if maybe somebody has experienced something or they just are passionate about these kind of topics, you can always say, oh, we have a youth leadership group that talks about these kind of things. It's completely free. When we meet in person, we bring snacks or feed them however they want to be fed. And then if people find it more comfortable to meet on Zoom, we can also do these virtually, which is a really nice thing that we've added since COVID. And let me know if you have any questions about this program. Silence so far. I'm not afraid of the silence, you guys. I teach classes sometimes at 7:30 in the morning and nobody talks, everybody sleeps. So I'm not scared of that. Okay, Inspiring Youth Program is next. Our Inspiring Youth Program is a wonderful program that we in the MVP program work very closely with. So this is more one-on-one work with youth. This team will do some in-home case management with the youth, but it also includes providing services for the family and supporting the youth and the family in whatever way they need to be supported. Again, very client-directed work. The ages for this is 10 to 17, and like I said, includes their families. So this is sort of comprehensive, trauma-informed support of individualized goals. And in my work with the Inspiring Youth Program, I've noticed those goals range a lot from different things. Sometimes it can be about acquiring a job. Sometimes it's school-related goals. Sometimes it's personal goals. Sometimes it has to do with safety. So it's really about the individuals and what it is that they would like to work on and see improvement in, or what ways they want to challenge themselves. And then this mentorship kind of happens throughout the course of, usually I think it's about a year, but I think it can be flexible a little bit, just kind of depending on certain situations. So this is coordination of care and resources for youth and family. It's to achieve success in all areas of their lives. So like I said, school, jobs, family, interpersonal relationships, and also supporting people in what they're good at. I know a couple of inspiring youth participants at the moment that I've had the pleasure of being able to do the youth leadership groups with too, who've gotten a lot of support from Inspiring Youth staff about the hobbies and things that they do in their own time to be celebrated as a successful thing. I think that's really important. I've seen some amazing growth in the youth just kind of as somebody outside of the program viewing in. I've seen a lot of people gain a lot of confidence going through this program and feel much more connected to their community and feel like they know where to find resources. And that's really what we try to do at Tubman. Kind of the theme is giving everybody the tools they need and empowering them to do what they want. And I think that this program is an excellent program to get youth involved in. So if you do need to refer to it, the contact is Patty. Patty is wonderful, and this is her phone number. And we actually have a place that you can refer people to through the website where they can self-refer just by registering on the website itself. So that's what that link is. And you can find it if you go to the website and you look under our services and go to youth programs, it's under that list. So if you ever need to walk anybody through it, it should be pretty easy to find. Just remember, it's for youth. Any questions? Yeah. I'm assuming you're all like taking diligent notes and super fascinated. Okay, so this is North Star Youth Outreach Center.
Yeah,
and
I can
Siri's going to jump in. Thank you, Siri.
So yeah, North Star is our youth outreach center, like you mentioned. It's located at Maplewood Mall. It's a youth program specifically because of recognition of ways that youth have often been excluded from different resources, and youth often have unique barriers in reaching out for help and accessing services. It's an outreach center because we wanted to show that we're reaching out to community members, not only waiting for community members to come to us, but to have a more active role in engaging and supporting the young people that we work with. And we're located at Maplewood Mall because we want it to be part of a community center. So not located somewhere that's inaccessible or hard for people to get to, but hopefully somewhere where young people will often go for fun with their friends and convenient access to supplies and resources and information from the volunteer advocates that we have available.
And do you know, Siri, is it door number 2? Does that sound right to you?
It is, yeah, door number 2, it's right by Kohl's. And it's located there because we want it to be right off of the bus line. So hopefully more accessible for people who are using public transportation. So it's a bit tucked away. It can be a little hard to find sometimes in the mall, but you can always call the landline. And if you need help, we can always come to you or help you find the location too.
And I know when I've done some shifts there too, sometimes teens will be walking by and they'll just kind of drop in, they're interested. They have like some school supplies, usually people can pick up. And I've seen a lot of people needing to use the computers for various things. What would you say that they use the computers for the most, Siri?
I think the intention when we got them was often for resumes and job searching and accessing different resources. But I think people also use computers for Facebook and technology and just connecting with friends. So there's no rules around the computer use. They're available for people in whatever way they need. Yeah, thank you.
And then I'll talk a little bit about some resources that we have. So we do have a text line. I know that that was important to youth in the communities. For the last many years, we are all texting, right? So there is a text line that people can use. This isn't used as like a like emergency or anything like that. It's not like the crisis line at all, but people can text it if they want or email that Gmail right there. YAYA stands for youth and young adults, but it's also fun to say. So that's why we use that acronym in our alphabet soup. So they can use that. I don't see a lot of young people engaging with that all the time. But it is useful if people are like, I just need somebody to text me a resource. That's a great thing that you can give them. They can text at any time. And usually we get back within a couple of days. So it's not like if they have something urgent, they should probably call our crisis line. We also have a website listed here called mydefinition.org. You'll see the little logo next to that. Mydefinition.org is a website that we have that is sort of designed with youth voices in mind. So the director of youth and sustainability services, her name is Tamara. She was talking to a youth and they were talking about how it's their definition, my definition that matters. Not necessarily the adults that they're always talking to. And she thought that that was like a really good point. So again, we're always trying to uplift youth voices and make sure that people feel seen and understood and are represented in the way that they want to be. So that's why we have this website. So if you go to, we call it MyDef for short, because we can't just ever call anything what it is. We always have little short ways of saying things. So it's my definition, but MyDef for short. And on this website, we have a bunch of different things that people can interact with. So we have some quizzes that are kind of related to healthy relationships and self-care. We also have a lot of youth legal information. We partnered with the U of N a couple of years ago for them to kind of lay out what youth rights are, because a lot of times young people have questions about that, and I'm not a legal expert, so I can't always answer those things perfectly. So we have it on our website now, so people can check out that page. We also have a blog on that website. The blog is updated every week, well, mostly every week, depending on if I get around to it. And that is mostly content that is coming from students or youth that we are working with. So it comes from students that I might see in classes or who might attend our youth leadership groups. It can also come from different like volunteers and interns that identify in the youth age range of 10 to 24 as well. I see a question. When would teens reach out to Yaya program Gmail versus teens@tubman.org? That is a great question. I think it would be more efficient to reach out to teens@tubman.org, because that goes straight to my email, and I look at my email every day. And the Yaya program one exists because we had a person specifically as a Yaya advocate for a while that's not funded in the same way anymore. So we no longer have somebody checking that email every day. So great question. Please, if you're going to refer one email address to a young person, give them the teens one. And it's easy to remember because it's just teens@Tubman. That's all you got to remember. So hopefully that'll be easier for you guys. Great question. Also on this mydefinition.org website, we'll have announcements of like events coming up. So we have, I mentioned in March, we have an event called Express Good. We also have that event every October. We have different topics for that event. And usually we have like guest artists come in and teach something or perform something or engage in some activities with people. So that's always announced on the front page of the mydefinition.org website. Or, if we have different groups coming up, things like that. We also announce like our poster contest every February and show the winners on there as well. So you can find a lot of stuff on mydefinition.org. If you are interested, always give out that as an option. And I'm always looking for people to contribute to the blogs. So if you meet a young person who's like super interested and engaged in things, I would love to share their artwork or anything they write or videos they make. I can share it on our website. I can share it in our blogs. And we also do newsletters. So these newsletters happen 4 times a year. It's just kind of like, we call it an MVP newsletter, but it's basically just highlighting things that youth are talking about at the time, things I'm hearing about in schools, and then I'll have some young people write up some pieces and make book recommendations and stuff, and then we send that out to lots of people. So any young people that you're interested in engaging in that way, give them this website, tell them about blogs, tell them about newsletters. I would love to uplift their voices in any work that they've done. Like I said, most of the content is from youth. Sometimes I have to create content, but I try not to. My voice is heard enough. All right, we're gonna pause, dramatic pause for the questions. This is a joke that Joni is sharing with us. Why did the PowerPoint presentation cross the road to get to the other slide? Very funny.
Thank you, I needed that.
Great. All right. Anybody have any questions about anything we've talked about so far? Or comments or areas of confusion, concerns?
Yeah, I had a question really quick about the my definition.
Yeah.
So would you refer a teen who wants to write to the newsletter at the teens@tubman.org?
Great question. Yes, teens@tubman.org is the perfect email if you meet a young person who's like, oh, I've got stuff I want to share. Perfect for that. Exactly. Great question. All right. No questions today. You're not phasing me, don't worry. All right, so we have an imaginative activity to engage all of you. We're going to break into small groups in a moment. I'll read this first, so don't worry. And then you'll break into small groups. You have a quick chat with each other. We're going to come back and then just share on a poll on Zoom about the answers that you talked about. So this is getting you to think about stuff from a youth perspective. So think about the programs that we have already talked about so far. So imaginative activity, you're 16 years old. You've been arguing a lot with your parents about your sexuality and things have been getting intense at home. One night, your parents tell you to get out. You try reasoning with them, but they say they're tired of dealing with you. You don't have any other family that live in Minnesota. You have friends in Minneapolis, but none in the suburbs near where you live. You have $20, a cell phone, and a backpack with clothes. So try to think of that. You're 16, think back to when you were 16, what would be your priorities? So you're going to come up with your top priorities in your small groups and how you think you'd get your needs met. Please think of the programs that we've already talked about, but if you think of other things as well, or other places you can reach out, those can be answers as well. So I'm going to hand some good conversations, or hopefully you asked each other good questions, brought up good points. We're going to have a poll for you to answer the kind of things that you talked about in your small group. That'll pop up momentarily. So think back to what you just talked about, or any other thoughts that you've had since, and you can answer that in the poll as it comes up.
Do you want me to launch that now, Anna, or do you
Yeah,
want me to
go for
okay.
it.
All right.
All right, so you can go ahead, click your answers.
In case anybody's on a phone or they're having a hard time seeing it, do you mind just reading it real quick, Anna?
Sure. The poll says, this is the first question. What would your top priorities be? Options that we have are transportation, school, money, shelter/housing, food, or something else, which we've asked you to write in the chat. I'm already getting some messages in the chat from your answers. Charging my phone, really good one. That's definitely going to be a priority. That is a huge priority for students in school all day long. So it's definitely going to be a priority, especially for safety in this situation. Staying in contact with connections, that's another great answer. That's one of the reasons that we think things like social media can be really effective to keep people updated with. That's why we have computers that people can use. Great answers. So if we want to share the results to the poll,
Yeah,
we're not already.
we're just short a couple people. I don't know
It
if
doesn't
they
matter.
just didn't have their phone on. Yep. Okay, here we go.
So we'll kind of see what people answered. I'm seeing a lot of answers for shelter and housing being a top priority because you want that safety. And thinking about how, like, what students have told me that they've done, you know, staying at a friend's house if they can. A lot of times if they have a car, they talk about crashing in their car, which isn't the safest option. So they're going to be looking for a safer place than that. Transportation, a lot of students don't have their own car for a variety of reasons, so might need to be getting around using public transportation, and which we can occasionally help out with, especially when people are working with one of our programs, that is possible sometimes to get them bus cards or bus tokens too. And then food showing up is another answer that people would prioritize. All those definitely priorities, things we try to account for. I know at North Star, where people can drop in and get some stuff. I was in a summer school class this summer a few weeks ago with a student who was like, there's no bus that will take me, no school bus that will take me from my home to school. And I don't have a car. Like, how am I supposed to get here? And of course, the answer is public transportation, but not everybody has, you know, the money to spend on that, or, you know, shouldn't have to if they're a student. So I kind of referred her to North Star, seeing if we have some bus cards, things like that. Siri, what else would you talk about on this poll?
Yeah, I think it's helpful thinking about how every person has a different priority. I think sometimes when we hear a story, it can be really easy to think, you know, I know exactly what you need and I can help, and here's this resource that will, you know, be beneficial to you. But a lot of times people might prioritize different things. They might have different past experiences that make one resource better or worse than others. And I think a lot of times too, people might share with you because they want to be heard, and they might want to be, you know, listened to and validated. And, you know, sometimes the best resource that we offer is listening. And, you know, that's of course a part of any conversation that we have with someone, but I think it can really vary depending on what that young person or what that person might need.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. I love what you said too about like past experiences can color what people might be looking for now. And then also young people talk to each other so much. So if somebody has a friend who has a past experience with like going to a certain shelter that they didn't like, then that person, their friend, isn't going to even try going there. So that's such a good reminder for everyone too. And then like you guys said in the chat already, you said charging phone and staying in contact with connections. Those kind of things are a big deal. So making sure that people do have a safe place to just like plug in a device that they need, whether it's their phone or a computer to just do schoolwork or apply for jobs. Sometimes people just need like a building to sit in on the floor with a something that they can plug their phone into, and just helping them sort of think about what is a reasonable place for me to go, or who can I ask about this? What would be safe? Should I go to this coffee shop and talk to the employees, or is that not the right thing for me? All of those things can be options. Being creative with it can be good too. This is also, oh, go ahead.
I think it's helpful too, thinking about, the demographic that you're serving. I know when you work with young people, like you've talked about, Anna, young people experience incredibly high rates of violence and abuse, and that it's even higher for BIPOC and queer and trans young people. So thinking about, how their identity impacts their experience and what might be helpful to them.
Absolutely. Great. I think we have our second poll for the second question there. So we've just talked about priorities, and then now we're going to talk about how would you get your needs met if you were the 16-year-old?
I don't think we have a second poll.
Oh, we don't have a poll for that.
For
Sorry.
this, we just have, sorry, Anna, we just have one poll per imaginative activity.
Got it. So let's hear your answers, or put them in the chat about how you would get your needs met. I know we've mentioned a couple of things. There's North Star is a resource people can go to, but what other resources do you think that you could reach out to, whether that's a Tubman resource or something else you can think of? You can be as creative as you want with this. Google information, a lot of students will go to that first, reaching out to friends and friends' parents, especially if they're parents that that person's interacted with a bunch, feels comfortable with. I know a lot of times students will reach out to their friends before any adults in their life. It's because that's who they're comfortable with. And then sometimes people want to keep their situation more private. So then they'll decidedly not do that, but that can be an option for people. We've got auntbertha.com listed here. Good resource. Google Internet, friend's house who has understanding parents, school. Yes, I would love everybody to think of school as a resource, and hopefully the school that they attend is a resource. Students don't always feel that way, but there are some schools with great supportive counselors or resource officers that can be really helpful, or just if they have a, like you guys mentioned in the chat here, teacher or coach, that kind of relationship they can reach out to. I do get some feedback from students too about, oh, I wouldn't let anybody in my school know about what I'm going through because I know that teachers gossip. So that is also a truth that can happen. Sometimes people find great resources in teachers, and sometimes they don't feel comfortable at all. And just remembering that that's going to be different for different people, even if they go to the same school and have the same teachers, they could have different feelings about that. And then reminding them of course, you can use the internet, you can Google things. We also have 211 could be a resource for people. Hopefully you've heard about that before. That, like United Way. Any other resources you want to mention, Siri?
Yeah, I mean, a main one would be Tubman's 24-hour resource line. So people can call if they want to talk, if they have questions, or if there's different resources that we're looking for. So that one's always available. Day One is another program that has 24-hour resources and support, including a network of domestic violence shelters that are available to people. And Youth Service Network would be another one. So that is specific for youth shelters, some youth housing programs, youth outreach and drop-in centers, and youth health programs. So that can be a good starting point for a lot of young people too.
Absolutely. And I think it's good to know just those words that you just said, Siri, too. Like people can Google this and they might feel more comfortable knowing that. Like you can Google, you can kind of vet these programs online the way you want to. And some places you can also see like reviews written by students, like Google reviews and stuff by people who've used those services. So that might be helpful to the young person who's looking for a resource too. Great. And if you come up with any other ideas, feel free to throw it in the chat. We can always jump back to this conversation as needed. But like Siri has said, remembering that everyone is an individual and might have different priorities and different experiences is the number one thing. Giving our teen email, the teens@tubman.org email is always an option. Again, that's not a crisis one though, but we could definitely give them a list of resources or meet up to talk one-on-one with them too. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Siri.
Awesome. So I know a lot of times when people think of Tubman, people often first think of the shelter that we offer. And while that's a really huge and important resource that we have here at Tubman, we also work in a number of different locations and have a number of different programs. Like you've talked about, Anna, we work in schools and courthouses. We often meet people where they're at in homes, in community centers and coffee shops, and really strive to be more accessible. And each of the programs that we have listed here are created, co-created with the people that we serve. Yeah. Kids in Transition is a program that's currently on hold, but we're hoping that we can reopen hopefully next year. So it's on hold while we are filling a current open staff position. But Kids in Transition is a 6-week support group that's available for young people 5 to 12 years old. And then we have another group available for people who are 13 plus. And it's a program that is not only for people who are impacted by violence, but also people who are impacted by transition more broadly. So that can include if you're experiencing grief or loss or relationship transitions, if there's a divorce in a family, there's a number of different transitions that a person could experience that would make them a good fit for our KIT program.
And that is a program I've helped teach before too. And a lot of the activities are super hands-on. So there's creating, doing art, there's engaging in different kinds of activities for students of all learning styles, which I think is really great. And then they get to keep the things that they create, and we give them some art supplies that they also get to keep as well, which especially the younger kids really like. It makes them feel really connected and celebrated. And often too, people going through KIT, especially the 13 plus age range, they might go through it after the 6 weeks, kind of wish that something could continue. And then they might be interested in the youth leadership program, that MVP that I mentioned earlier, which can kind of build off some of the skills and tools that they gained in KIT as well. That's more of our alphabet soup KIT.
Yeah, and I know KIT used to be located at North Star Outreach Center, and through the pandemic, we started offering KIT remotely over Zoom. I think that the plan is that it would start over Zoom again when it reopens. But I know they've also made a lot of work to make it still very interactive and very community centered. And one of the things that Julie, the former program manager, talked about was sending out like KIT kits, which included a lot of art supplies and glue sticks and glitter and different art things that people could use kind of for self-care and also throughout their program. Resource advocates are located out of 2 different sites. So we've had resource advocates work at East, which is our location that includes our shelter and youth housing program, and also resource advocates working out of Chrysalis. I think a lot of times when people think about our 24-hour crisis and information line, there's a perception that every phone call is a crisis call. And we really get a range of different, resources and different calls that people might have. We get a lot of people who are looking for shelter and housing and food resources and youth programs and community programs. And resource advocates are really skilled at offering Tubman programs as well as community programs that are available.
So I have a question about the kids program that you were just talking about. How does a younger kid find out about you? Because a lot of times when a kid that needs that doesn't have the parents that would put them in that program.
I think it really depends. I mean, I think that we work to share information about all of our programs across Tubman. I think it's a program that Anna shares when she's working in schools. And we do have a lot of parents who make referrals for their kids based on experiences that they might have and ways that they might be impacted by trauma within a household. And we do our work to get, the word out in the community, so you can get information from teachers and coaches and friends and family members, and work to make it as accessible as possible. So I think it depends. I'm not sure if that's a very fair answer, but I think it depends on the family and their connections.
I have seen siblings refer their younger sibling as well. A sibling might meet me in school or and say like, oh, I should take this information home to my mom or whatever for my younger sibling. And then also like anybody involved in inspiring youth, and sometimes people staying in our youth housing programs might have a friend of a family or a family member who might be in that age range too. So I've seen that happen a few times.
Did that answer your question, or do you have any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, no, I was just curious if you were in the parks and stuff like that, or, that kind of thing, reaching out.
Yeah, we do occasionally I've done some stuff at parks and community centers as well. It kind of comes and goes, those partnerships. Sometimes they can be longer lasting, and a lot of times it's like, hey, we have this event going on. Will you come and table or hand out flyers, things like that. We do that when we can. And if we have the capacity to, which has been strained lately.
Yeah, I was working at a tabling event in Richfield. They had a community concert where we were sharing information about Tubman programming recently. So I think that was another connection for a number of people. Yeah, Harriet's Closet is our clothing boutique. We have one located in our Maplewood Center and one located in Minneapolis. When Harriet's Closet was first created, I think it was largely to serve adult women who needed professional clothing, often for interviews and court appearances. But since it was created, it's really expanded to serve more young adults, more people of all gender identities and all ages. And we've worked to create more casual clothing options available for people too. So offering a lot of sweatpants and leggings and sweatshirts and things that are more comfortable for people. Yeah, and currently Harry's Closet is not open to the community at large. We're primarily serving our Tubman clients right now. Pieces of Peace is a drop-in free support group. It's available to people of all gender identities. It's geared primarily for adults, and it's for people who have experienced relationship abuse of all forms, including emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical, sexual, or financial abuse. And people of all stages of healing are welcome to attend the program. It is really accessible in the sense that we don't ask about health insurance information. So really all that you need to be able to participate would be going to our website and providing your email so they can send you the Zoom link and a few other questions. Yeah.
I know in past years, I've been able to see some of the comments that people who've gone through Pieces of Peace or who have used that before. And some of them say that they really like that it's drop-in. So you could go like super long term, you could go one time, or you could just go when you feel like going. And I think that that's a really good feature of that program. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to add, I think one of the benefits of a support group too is that oftentimes people who've experienced abuse are socially isolated or have experienced isolation as a part of the abuse. So one of the goals of our support groups that we offer is to build community and connections with other people who might have similar experiences.
Absolutely. We have a question in the chat. How and where can people donate to the closet, and where do donations come from?
Yeah. Joni, do you want to take that one? I know you had a comment. I forget what your update was.
I think the latest I heard was that because of space that we are taking donations at Tubman East and Maplewood. but not in Minneapolis right now. And I believe on our website, there's a list of like current needs. Because again, we can't just take everything all the time. It's just impossible to keep up with it. So yeah, I think people could call the main number at Tubman East and get that, or look on our website for kind of current needs. Typically, big needs are larger sizes. We tend to get a lot of smaller sizes, I guess. The larger sizes are nice, and yeah, and then a whole range of, plus people like earrings, accessories, things like that we have in Harriet's closet as well.
We have some good videos lately on Instagram, on our Tubman Instagram page, just kind of walking people through the closet and what it looks like, and also just kind of reminders of the things that we're looking for. I know people want to be like really generous and not participate in like clothing waste, but really making sure that the things that they're donating are quality, something that you'd be willing to give like your best friend. So if you ever have people asking questions about that, you can remind them quality is important. We want people to feel really happy about the clothes that they get.
And we do redonate the clothing that we're not able to keep and use in Harriet's closet. I know that a large number of items that we receive that we're not able to use, we resend to the Epilepsy Foundation. And that's based on a partnership that we have with them, because it's believed that Harriet Tubman had epilepsy because she had visions and seizures. So that's one of our partner organizations too.
Were you all done with this slide?
I think so, yeah. Our Jobs, Education, and Finance program is often called JEF. It primarily serves Tubman clients, but it's also open to people in the community who are looking for additional support with their career and education and finance goals. It's a program that I refer a number of my program participants to for help with budgeting and credit, taking out loans, working on financial and economic security. And I think it's a really important program, especially considering that financial abuse is one of the most common types of abuse that people experience. And our JEF program works to really counteract that.
Yeah, that's another one of those things that I didn't get any education on this when I was in school, and I can't believe it, because it's something that affects you every day. So that's one of the reasons we're trying to fill those gaps.
And I know in a lot of our programs as well, we work, not just to talk to a young person about how to budget, but also to zoom out and look at the economic structures and systems that can keep people in poverty. So not only, zooming in on the little details, but also zooming out sometimes and looking at the historical context that can harm and oppress a lot of the young people that we serve. Our economic advancement program is similar. It's a new program that's available for people in Hennepin County that have experienced domestic violence and who qualify for MFIP. So that's a form of cash assistance that is offered to parenting and pregnant people. It was created to reduce the negative impacts of the benefits cliff, meaning that often when people have slight changes in their income, it can have really drastic changes to the benefits that they receive. So it is, an educational model, but also looking at, immediate steps and goal planning with the people that we serve. So it is a lot of one-on-one support that is led by client needs and can include a lot of different types of, economic and financial goals that the people that we serve might have. Our Chrysalis Food Pantry is, I think currently we're offering primarily gift cards for Cub and Aldi for our Tubman clients. So we used to be located on site at Chrysalis, and for the time being, we're providing gift cards instead for the people that we serve. Really based on client feedback that food insecurity is something that many of the people that we work with experience. And Anna, do you want to take the imaginative activity?
Yes, time for more small group work, everyone. So put on your empathy hats again and get ready to think about something from another perspective. So same deal as last time. I'll read through it. We'll have our small groups. We'll talk about it after. So imagine this. Imagine that you're a parent of 4 and you're going through a challenging divorce. Your partner has been verbally and physically abusive for the last 2 years. You've secured housing, but you've not made financial decisions for the last 12 years, and your partner was the breadwinner and controlled the finances. So again, we're talking about priorities. So what top priorities do you have? And then how would you get your needs met? And we'll break into groups momentarily and we'll do our thing. Talking about, oh great, talking about the top priorities. We're going to have another poll just like we did last time about your answers, whether they were what you talked about or maybe it just occurred to you. Give us your answers. We're curious what you think. So feel free to give your answers. If you can see the poll on your screen. I'm seeing the answers come in. Thank you all for participating. I appreciate it. If we were in class, if we were in a school, I would give you candy. Well, I'd bribe you with candy. That's what I would do. So if you have a good answer, I'll give you candy. Give you a few more seconds to answer that up. Just so you guys all know, the question is, what would your top priorities be? And our options are your children, money, food, legal resources, therapy, or something else. And you can use the chat just like we did before. We already have an answer for something else coming in the chat, a safety plan, how to get out. Great. We can, are we showing the answers? I don't know if they're, thank you, Katie, on top of it. Another answer in the chat, opening my own bank account to store any money friends and family might be able to offer in the crisis. Oh, I love that answer. One of the things I always talk about with students at school is the number of people that I've met over the years doing this work who say, I wanted to get out earlier, but they had access to all my finances. So one of the things I just educate students on is, you know, great if you want to have a shared bank account, but please always make sure you have a private one as well, because you never know what could happen in the world. So some of your top answers here, your children being a top priority, money being another big priority, and then food and legal coming in pretty high as well. Siri, what are your thoughts?
I think it's really interesting that it's so split among the answers that people shared. I know, going back to Patty's comment about a safety plan, that's something that every Tubman advocate is available to create and work with on, work with a person on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another comment here, figuring out how to get child support, after school care, depending on job status, absolutely all things that would be on someone's mind, stressing them out, making it feel really hectic in this moment. Since we had so many answers talking about children being a priority, let's talk about some of the resources. How are you going to get those needs met? You can hop into the chat, or you can hop onto your microphone, whatever you feel comfortable with. Getting resources for children. Think of things we have at Tubman, but also maybe you can think of other resources too.
Library.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi. Library would be a good resource because, when you first come in the door, they have a lot of postings that they have up there. And I think people will be really surprised that there is things up there that can help someone who's going through it.
Absolutely.
And as if you use the library, at least your significant other, whoever you're trying to get away with, probably would imagine you being there and able to find the information like that. So I think the library is a good source to find out information too.
I totally agree. I love that you mentioned libraries. I'm always worried about the libraries and them being able to keep going. But like you said, there's so many good resources, and sometimes some libraries even offer like after school tutoring and stuff, which could be a help in that situation. Great. Anything to add to your library point? Well, thank you so much for your answer. We have a couple of answers coming in the chat as well. The Kids in Transition program might help with kids coping with a divorce. That's a great opportunity to use KIT. That's a big transition that somebody can go through. They're going to have a lot of feelings and emotions about it, and giving them a space where other people feel in transition as well to share, that feel supportive, can be a great thing. And then in the chat from Patty, if you are married, sometimes you have to be below a certain income to access certain resources. That's definitely true. Siri, any other thoughts?
No, I don't think so.
Great. Well, thank you for participating in that poll and that conversation. If the students are young, KIT is a great option. If they're getting older, that youth leadership MVP we have might be something that's helpful. Pieces of Peace, a good support resource at Tubman for people who want to talk about what they're going through. And then we also mentioned the Jeff program, Jobs, Education, and Finance, being a place where somebody in this situation might get to be refreshed on some information about handling finances that maybe they just haven't been doing in a while. So that can be helpful as well. And of course, people can also Google those kind of resources and use outside of Tubman. We always want to support people in finding the resource that's convenient for them and makes sense for them, even if they don't want to use a Tubman resource directly. Great. We can move on. If you have more thoughts, feel free to put them in the chat. All right, as we're starting to wrap up here, we just want to remind you all that you've learned a lot. You've learned about so many Tubman programs just tonight alone, but you've been going through the training for quite a while now. And we're in the home stretch, so just hang in there a few more minutes. But we want to remind you of the program guide. So that can be found at tubman.org. So our website, you can find the program guide electronically, and then at our locations, we also have physical paper copies of them. I highly recommend having one on hand that you can access quickly. Sometimes it's easy because we have so many programs going on. It can be easy to like just have one slip your mind here or there. So if you have one that you can just leaf through or scan through on the website, that's really helpful. Siri, we talked about where to find it on the website already, and I completely forgot. Do you remember?
I know that it's posted in a number of different locations on the website, and they can be a little tricky and confusing to find, but I usually find it from tubman.org. And then if you click on services, you should be able to scroll down and find the program guide.
Yes, I'm doing it as you're talking. So tubman.org, and then about our services. And then there's a line in the middle of the page that says our current program guide is available here. You click on it and then you can scroll through it. So it's there, and then also in some other fancy ways on the website to find it, but that's the easiest way. If you have the program guide, you can look through, you can, it gets updated, I believe, quarterly, if not more often than that. So all the programs should be pretty much up to date, and all the contact people for the programs will be listed in there as well. So great resource to use on a daily basis. Okay, we want to pause again, take a moment, take a breath, think about anything we've said that confused you or anything you'd like us to clarify, any comment you may have, any challenge we presented to you that we didn't realize we did. Maybe you have a joke you'd like to share with the group. See if we can be funnier than Joni's joke earlier. Impossible, it was the funniest joke. Getting crickets. Man, it's basically like teaching a high school class right now. I'm just kidding. High schoolers actually participate a lot. But yeah, if you think of thoughts, questions, reactions that you have, feel free to put them in the chat if you don't want to say it out loud. We can move on. So we've come full circle. Just a reminder, you've learned so much. We've probably overwhelmed you. We really appreciate you going through this training to learn about all of our programs so that we can best serve our community members. So thank you very much for doing that and for paying attention the whole time. I know that they can be long nights. You've probably all been working hard all day as well. So thank you. Let's see what's next. Oh, this is just a reminder of the approach that we have at Tubman. So strength-based, I know you've already talked about this, person-centered and trauma-informed. All of the programs that we've talked about tonight use these approaches as well. Basically, I don't know, I think of it as vibes. These are the vibes that we give out. Think of it however it makes sense to you. But making sure that we're always putting the person first, and the people that we're serving should get to feel empowered and secure and safe when they are experiencing services from us or getting resources from us as well. These are some specific to youth sites that I want to talk about for a minute or two. I already mentioned mydefinition.org. That's the Tubman owned website that students create content for, like blogs, stuff like that. So just a reminder that that exists. The second website listed here is loveisrespect.org. I always like to include this in resources. It's not a Tubman owned resource. I just think it's a really good website. A lot of students have told me they like the content that's on there and the way that it's presented. So that's another website that you can give out to students if they're just trying to educate themselves on recognizing red flags in relationships or getting access to some resources. This is also a website that has some really good safety planning tools. So I know somebody mentioned in the chat safety planning as part of something that they would prioritize in that last activity. Safety planning can be really easy once you know how to do it, but can feel kind of difficult if you've never done it before. So they have these little forms you can download or just do right on loveisrespect.org that are kind of specific to teenagers. It talks about how to safety plan for going to school, how to safety plan for your job, how to safety plan at home, and breaks it down in a really nice way. That is, of course, Googleable. You can always Google that, but that has a good outline there. Love is respect. And then we are on a bunch of social media because that's where the young people are. So we got to be there too. Our handle on all of these sites is at Tubman MVP, which stands for Movement for Violence Prevention. Part of that alphabet soup again. So Facebook and Twitter, that's not really youth are on there anymore, but we're still on there for some reason. And then there's Instagram, and we're on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I make my volunteers and interns post on TikTok. And then we also have YouTube videos. A lot of the videos that we have on YouTube were created during the pandemic. We were making electronic lessons for teachers to share with students however it made sense for them. So we also posted some of that content on YouTube too. And we can always post more if people request stuff. So you can find us and follow us on all of those platforms. And Siri, do you want to mention this social media?
The Tubman website? Yeah, so we have all of our programs listed on the Tubman website, and it's also a place where you can apply for jobs if you're interested. And you can sign up for a newsletter if you want to stay up to date on Tubman events and information.
And then Tubman as a whole has Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are separate from the Tubman MVP ones. Ours are more for engaging youth. These are for the full audience, the full community. I mentioned earlier there were some videos on our Instagram of Harriet's Closet, and that would be found on the Tubman MN Instagram. And thanks again, everybody, for participating, for being here, for showing up, for being yourselves, having your thoughts and feelings and questions as we went along. Really appreciate it and value your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Anna and Siri for doing the training tonight. Send them some love in the chat.
Thank you.
I want to